Welcome to the Wild and Fierce podcast. We are your hosts, Amber.
And Johanna. We're here to explore womanhood through real, raw, and unfiltered conversations.
Please remember this podcast is for education only and not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult your own healthcare professional.
Let's dive in.
Well, welcome to this week's episode of the Wild and Fierce podcast. Today is going to be a fun one and a topic that Johanna and I have wanted to do for a while because I think it's something we all need to know about, and that is stress. So we're going to break down what stress actually is, which I think may surprise some of us of what stress actually is, how we can manage stress better, and ways this affects us specifically as females with our physiology and what we see specifically with our clients and just in society. And then we'll end with some practical strategies that you guys can use to help manage stress and troubleshoot all this on your own. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Johanna, and she's going to kick off our first section, and we'll get rolling.
All right. Okay, so we're going to start off with the female stress response. But really, before we dive into that, I want to talk about, or we want to talk about what stress actually is. Because how many times, ladies, have you gone to the doctor or gone to get a massage or like had a conversation with someone and they're like, you seem really stressed? Or like I know personally, I like would go to when I was going through a lot of my health stuff, like a doctor would be like, yeah, you're showing a lot of signs of stress. And until you understand what stress is and what it isn't, and I think it's kind of surprising when you learn that, it can be kind of like, well, I don't feel stressed, or what do you mean I'm stressed? Or like, like my ex person didn't just die in my life. I'm not stressed. I think we often think that stress has to mean big.
We
And I,
also
I think that's
compare a lot too. I think we compare what
yeah,
our life feels like on a stress level to someone else's. And so if someone else's seems way more stressful, we then make ours little. And we're like, oh, ours isn't that bad.
isn't that bad. I actually have a client right now that's something that we're working on is she's going through a ton. I was like, girlfriend, like you have so much going on in your life, like relationship change, work change, house living change. Um, she's going through some health stuff. Like there's so much going on in her life, and she constantly tells herself, well, it could always be worse or other people have it worse. So then she's like, I don't know if belittling's the right word, but just not fully recognizing the full power of what she's going through right now.
Mhm.
So if that sounds familiar for you, something that you can ask yourself is, if your best friend was going through this, how would you feel towards her? Or what would you say to her? And when I prompted that question to her, she actually started to tear up and she was like, I would say that you're going through a lot right now. And I think it's really easy when we're thinking about our own shoes or when we're in our own shoes to not think about things clearly. But when we think about, like, okay, I'm going to step away for a sec, think about someone else, I think that can be really helpful.
It helps you have actually have, like empathy for yourself.
Yeah,
Like give
totally.
yourself some grace. I think that's one thing
Yeah,
that we could all give ourselves an extra scoop of is like pour on a little bit more grace for
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah,
Just too hard on ourselves and expect
totally.
too much.
Yeah, I think it's almost that. It's like almost we expect too much out of ourselves of like I should be able to handle this,
Yeah.
right? And then we don't give ourselves grace because I think the other thing with stress, and we'll talk about this more, is you almost build up a tolerance to it. Amber and I were talking about alcohol before this, and like you build up an alcohol tolerance, right? I think we build up stress tolerances as well, and then stress can get really addictive. So before we dive into that though, let's talk about what stress actually is, because I feel like that's important. So when we're looking at stress, there's really like two forms of stress, and we're really going to try to not use the words good and bad in this situation because it's not first off, I don't really like the words good and bad. Like there's like good fats, bad fats. I hate that. Or good sugar, bad sugar. It's silly. So it's like good stress, bad stress. Let's not talk about it that way. Let's talk about it in like actual psychology terms. So it's eustress, and it's Eustree or ESS. It's kind of a weird word. Eustress, and then distress. So eustress is like mild to normal amounts of stress that are considered more beneficial. And then distress would be more like long-term or extreme or stress that's taking away from you. An example of eustress that like comes to mind for me is I used to be an athlete in high school. I'd play volleyball games. That's stressful. Like that challenge, that competitive environment, stressful. But that's not necessarily a bad stress. Now, if I didn't handle it well and it wrecked me and I was having gut issues and like I couldn't cope with it, then maybe it would be distress. But to me, that was eustress for my body. Distress could be much more of like you work 5 12s a week. and you're working way too much. That would be much more of like distress. Amber, do you want to give any examples for eustress versus distress?
So I'm gonna do it from like my population. So Eustress examples that I use with my clients all the time is like just being a mom
Yeah,
is stressful.
yeah,
I can't take away the stress of having kids. Like it just is stressful, but it's a life-giving
yeah,
stress most of the
yeah.
time, right?
I like that.
Granted, can it kind of tip the other way? Yes, but in general, being a mom and raising kids is a good, I said don't want to use good stress,
Yeah,
a healthy stress. We'll
yeah.
use it that way.
Beneficial. Yeah,
Beneficial stress. And then distress, an example again that I see in my population is such a busy schedule. There's no white space. So it's like that grind, go, 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 do it all, juggle 10 balls at the same time. I think that's where we're getting into more of like the distress, where we're really
yeah,
trying to do way too many things. There's way too much on our plate. We don't have boundaries. We can't say no. We're just feeling very depleted and we're tipping into more of like the distress.
yeah. I think something that I heard you say that I really want to point out is taking away from your life versus adding to your life.
Yeah.
And I think something that's really tricky is eustress can be adding to your life, adding to your life, adding to your life, and then all of a sudden it's taking away from your life. Like a new job might feel like eustress, like it feels really balanced and good and you feel great, and then you start giving in more and giving more and giving more, and now it's turned into distress. And I think it's all stress in a way, and I think it's important to understand beneficial stress, or what's the opposite of beneficial?
Less than beneficial.
Less than beneficial. The technical term, guys, the less than beneficial stress.
The only word that came to my mind.
I hope they're giggling.
Ah,
Okay, yeah. So the very like technical term of less beneficial
less
stress,
beneficial.
I think it's a pendulum, and I think you can switch over to that distress
I
aspect
agree.
very, very easily. And because stress creates a stress response in the body, it can become very, very addictive. And you can get addicted to the good stress, and then maybe it's becoming distress. Like working out can happen.
I
Like
was
it can happen
literally,
that way.
you just stole that out of my.
I read it. I read your mind.
I was literally just gonna say, can we
Yeah.
give an example of exercise? You
Yeah.
go ahead. You
Yeah.
just
So working out. So you could work out a couple times a week and you feel really good and energized and revived and it's adding to your life. Or maybe we start to get a little addicted to that feeling and then it starts to become distress. I think like extreme athletes like that definitely could be a thing for sure. Like bikini bodybuilders or like marathon runners and stuff like that, triathletes, it's probably kind of a combination of eustress and distress. And if you don't take care of your body in other areas like nutrition, sleep, and hydration and stuff like that, it will very easily switch into distress. But there's ways that you can mitigate that and to keep it in the eustress. And I think that's a big message that we want to talk about is it's not that we want to get rid of stress in our life because that's just not realistic. If that's your goal, you will always fail and that will probably become stressful. So it's not realistic to get rid of stress in your life, but it's more so of being realistic about what is stressful in your life and then how can you set yourself up for success to be able to handle that stress. Anything you
Mhm.
want to add to that?
The only thing I want to add is I think our goal of this is to one, open your eyes what stress is, but two, we want to give you tools to where you
Uh-huh.
can better manage stress. Because
Yeah,
again, you can't take it away. We don't want to. Like our body needs stress to survive,
yeah,
but giving you tools to where you can walk through that stress and handle it better is really where I think the magic happens.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So at Wild Muse, the way that we teach stress is this, like what we've just been talking about, but then I will also break it up into like two categories. And we're going to dive into like specifics of those categories a little bit later in the episode. But right now, the two categories that we teach is commonly known stressors and then lesser known stressors. And the lesser known stressors are stressors that you might not be aware of that they're adding to your stress levels. So the way that I like to teach this is imagine that you have a bucket. It's like a stress bucket theory. I feel like there's all sorts of like bucket theories.
Hmm.
Is there another one that comes to mind for you?
I mean, they even just do like cups too, like even
Or
just like
cups?
filling a cup up. But
Yeah, yeah,
bucket
yeah. Filling your
most
cup.
common. Yeah.
Yeah. So think about a stress bucket. You can handle like whatever, like let's say I'm going to give you a 5 gallon bucket. You can handle a 5 gallon bucket of stress at any point in your life, girlfriend. Like humans are meant to, right? But the difference is, and I think this is where the tipping point happens for a lot of women. If we have a lot of lesser known stressors, I'm going to give some examples of those. Some lesser known stressors filling up your bucket, Things like under eating, under sleeping, saying yes all the time, taking too many supplements. This actually surprises a lot of people. Let's say you have those four things going on. Well, that's taking 3 gallons of your stress bucket, okay, of your 5 gallons. Then you lose your job. Whoa. All of a sudden that bucket can no it's well like losing your job would probably fill a 5 gallon bucket. Like that's a pretty high level of stress, right? So you just went from having 2 gallons or I hopefully like 4 to 5 gallons of room in like a ideal like stress resiliency situation. But because you have all these lesser known stressors that are filling that bucket as well, making it so you have 2 gallons taking that up, you only have 3 gallons to be able to handle other stressful situations, like commonly known stressors. And those are things more like life trauma, relationship stuff, financial stuff, health stuff, the things that you think about like when you're under stress. I'll bring it back to like a school example. Most of us went to school. When you have an exam, that is a commonly known stressor, right? So if we have all these lesser known stressors, things that you're not even aware of that are filling your stress bucket, taking up space in that stress bucket, we then don't have resiliency to be able to handle life's bigger stressors. Pregnancy, postpartum, that's a big one. You may not necessarily think them as stress because they're not innately negative, but this is an eustress and distress bucket, guys. So this is why we like to teach this because the commonly known stressors, a lot of the time, we don't have a lot of control over them. Like life happens. Life gives you lemons sometimes, right? But the lesser known stressors we do have control of. And I think the lesser known stressors take up a lot of space in our stress bucket. And when you know that those are contributing to your stress levels, skipping meals is a big one that's adding to your stress bucket. When you know that that's happening, then you can control that and you can make yourself more resilient and have more space in your stress bucket so then you can handle bigger life events without feeling like, man, I'm burnt out, I'm flipped overboard. Any questions or do you have any thoughts that you want to add to that?
No, sounds great
No.
so far.
Okay, cool. Um, then I touched on this just a few minutes ago. Stress can be very addictive because of the physiological cascade that happens when we experience stress in our body. So, when we experience stress in our body will release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Those feel really good. They feel like a high. It feels like you just had a cup of coffee. It's kind of like after you, or like endorphins, like after you want to run, you feel like you're on a high, or after you go to a concert, you feel like you're buzzing, or after you have a couple cups of caffeine, like you feel really good, right? That can be really, really addictive. The body really likes that. And eustress and distress can both release those. And it's not necessarily to say that we never want to have that happen. Like it's going to happen. Life is life, right? But and I think women in particular can get very addicted to feeling that high. And we see this a lot in our clients. And I am the definition of a stress seeker. It's taken a lot to break. I can explain a lot of that here in a little bit. But that can then cause us to be a stress seeker, which then can almost turn stress to be part of our identity of, oh, I'm a high achiever, I'm a go-getter, I'm a doer, I'm busy all the time, and busy feels really good. Is there anything else that comes to mind,
I think
Amber?
of it like the yes woman too.
The
Like,
yes
yes,
woman.
throw more on my plate. Yes, I
Yeah.
can do that. Yes, yes,
Yep.
yes.
The
Like you don't
superwoman.
know how to, yeah, you don't know how to say no and you don't
Yeah.
know how to set boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. And you may not even know that you may not even realize that you're
Mm-hmm.
needing to say no. Like that's where I was for so long was it felt so good to say yes, to do it all, to fill my schedule, to make more money, to do more, that I didn't even realize that saying no was an option because it felt so good because I was a stress seeker. So if you feel like you might just be a stressed out person or a go-getter or a go-go-goer all the time, this episode really is for you. And I think this is a lot of my clients, Amber. I feel like this is probably a lot of your
Oh yeah.
clients. I think a lot of moms are this way because you get so used to multitasking all the time. That can be a stress and that starts to get addictive. Um, and so it's a fine line. And I think the biggest thing is just creating awareness around it and understanding what it is in your body can be really, really helpful.
I think it's where we start to see a lot of burnout pop up too
Yes. Yeah.
in individuals like that.
Yeah.
Whether that's in your career, in a sport,
Mhm.
in motherhood, like
Mhm.
whatever you fancy. If you're constantly saying yes, doing more, not setting boundaries, like wearing stress and busyness. I think stress and busyness kind of go together.
Yeah.
Wearing it like a badge of honor,
Yeah.
that's where you start getting to that tipping point of like, this is no longer serving me. It's like destroying me.
Yeah.
And it starts dragging you to the other side. That pendulum
Yeah.
is swinging the wrong direction at that
Yeah. And that was me for sure. Like I feel like I would have really high highs and then really low lows. And I feel like people, and I honestly would say like a lot of people that deal with depression, it could be you kind of coming down from that high stress response. I not all the time for sure, but I do think that that could be something that's connected for sure. I know that that definitely was connected for me. Um, yeah, and so wearing it as a badge of honor, I think is really, really huge. Like if someone asks, "How's life? How are things going?" and your response is, "Oh, it's so good. I'm so busy." Big sign that you're probably wearing it as a badge of honor. Like I
That's
used to do
something
that.
I'm working on so hard.
Yeah.
So Johanna and I have voice messages going constantly, and then
Yeah.
me and my other good friends, Griffin, shout out to her, also have voice messages going constantly. And I literally said this to her in a message the other day. I was like, I have to stop telling you that I'm so busy.
Yep.
Because if that's the case, and I need to, and I literally had a coaching call with one of my business mentors yesterday because I'm talking specifically about entrepreneurship. And I was like, it's a sign to me that something isn't functioning right in my business if I feel busy all of the time. So now I'm doing like a system reflection and like
Yeah.
looking through things. But that's what I do. I say, I'm so good, but I'm so busy. And it's a good busy. But like,
Yeah.
is it? Is
Yeah.
it serving me or is it not serving me?
I do the same thing. And I think that good busy is that stress seeking. It feels really good. Like I'm actually kind of I'm so much better at like managing my schedule and actually anyone out there that like struggles, I always think that my future self is more capable than she actually is. Like God bless myself now because my future self, I really screw her over sometimes. So I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah, we can do that. Like I have like this thing like every spring where I'm like, yeah, I'll release a program and host an event and start a podcast
Same.
and do all
Same.
these
That's
things.
exactly what I did to myself.
Yeah, I do it too. But I'm getting better and better and better at recognizing it. And I have people in my life that like point things out now. But I also used AI to help me manage my calendar. I'm like, okay, I have all these things that I want to do. Then AI told me, okay, block out these days so you have slow weeks after you do this. And I did that and it was beautiful. So,
It's like
anyways,
actually having recovery and rest.
it's actually having recovery and rest. And I'm not that as good. I'm working on it as identifying when I might need that in my future self. Because remember, my current self always thinks my future self can take on the world. Yeah, it's a thing. But
But
AI helped me a lot at managing my schedule. So, and I think you could even do this even if you're not running your business. If you're like, okay, ChatGPT or whoever you want to use, I have a family vacation and then a family reunion, and then kids start school. And then I also want to start a workout program. And I also want to pick up knitting. And then I also want to do these things. Help me plan this out for the next like 6 months so I like keep my sanity at the same time. So a little side tangent of a tool that can be helpful, but I think a lot of women, a lot of people, our society really praises productivity and busyness, right? So I think that that then makes us kind of go full send into that all the time.
for sure.
Okay, so women's bodies also process and respond to stress differently than men's as well. And we'll do an episode sometime of like male physiology versus female
That's a good
physiology.
idea.
I like off the top of my head, I'm like, oh, it won't be that long of an episode.
It'd be long.
It'll
Yeah.
probably be a long
So
one,
we'll
but
give
it's
you
a
like
really
just
interesting.
the spark notes of this
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. So this basically men respond to stress typically and I'm not necessarily on like an always like a chronic stress basis, but like on like a day-to-day stress basis, their body will actually release testosterone to help respond to stress. So it's kind of been it's not necessarily beneficial, but if you think back to like hunters versus gatherers, the hunters, typically the men, would see a stress and then they'd release testosterone to then be able to like go hunt, right? Women don't respond that way. So when women are coming across stress, it actually depletes or shuts off our stress or our sex hormone production. So this is where it's so beneficial and important to understand stress as women is we don't operate in the same way as men and our society is primarily set up to support the male hormone cycle and that's why we'll do an episode with it. So if women are chronically stressed and their stress bucket is about to spill over all the time because they have a lot of these lesser known stressors going on, which a lot of us do, then they are actually affecting how their sex hormones are being produced, which then has a cascade of effects down the road as well. Um, Cortisol, you see cortisol videos all the time on social media right now. They're like, I just saw one that's like, I drank black seed oil every day for 4 months and I look like a model now.
Like cortisol face, that's all you see.
Yeah.
Everyone cortisol
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. She's like, I had cortisol face and thighs and belly. And honestly, like her before and afters did look really good. So maybe it was black seed oil for her. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I feel like we're seeing it a lot. Like cortisol is becoming very like popular, and there's so many cortisol reducing supplements out there. Don't fall for them. Our body releases cortisol when we're under stress. Once we're under chronic stress, our body will kind of tap out and stop producing cortisol. And that's when you're really truly in a burnout state and you can't handle anything anymore. It's because you're so low in cortisol. And that happened to me. Um, Cortisol, I think it's really important. We need cortisol. We don't want to demonize cortisol because I think there's a lot of people that are anti-cortisol right now. But just know that we will produce at a very high rate under times of stress. And that could even be like checking your phone before getting natural light in the morning. Like that releases more cortisol than needed. So once we like produce enough or produce too much cortisol for too long, then we have a cortisol plummet and then that can cause issues. Um, Anything you want to add to that?
Just the only other thing was the example too of like in the morning, if women are like not eating and then going and working out, they're going to also kind of spike that cortisol more than
Yes.
normally if they eat something before. So again, it's a simple thing that you can do. Either don't be on your phone or eat a little
Yeah.
bit before you start your day within like
Yeah.
30 to 60-minute window. So just
Yeah.
an example of the cortisol spike.
There's a lot that you can do to help calm your nervous system down so you're not overproducing cortisol. Like, I have a lot of clients ask, what do I take to balance my cortisol? And I'm like, well, you take eating enough food and you take
Sunshine.
getting enough rest and you take turning your phone off before bed and not checking your phone in the morning and you take like these are your supplements if you want to view if you want to supplement those are your supplements. We don't need ashwagandha. Can it be helpful in certain times? Yes, but it's not going to do diddly squat if we have a very dysregulated lifestyle and stuff like that going on. Um, we're definitely not going to dive into like all the like how your nervous system works in depth right now, but basically what we want to share is there's your nervous system has a autonomic, which is a involuntary, it happens automatically. We have no control over it. Nervous system. It breaks into two parts. So we have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. The parasympathetic is more of your rest and digest nervous system. Or we also have tend and befriend. And then the sympathetic is the fight or flight response. And we want that fight or flight response because if, our kid runs into the street, we want to be able to run and go get them, right? Or if a bear is in the woods, we want to be able to know how to handle that. We don't want our brain to get in the way. We want our conscious brain to get in the way. We want our subconscious to kind of take over and your instincts kick in for that fight or flight response. The issue is we have so many women putting themselves in, and myself included, up until very recently, always putting ourselves in this fight or flight response. And when we're in that fight or flight response, our body's releasing stress hormones. And when our body is releasing stress hormones, it's under stress, we're not releasing sex hormones. And if we're not releasing sex hormones, that is why so many women have hormone issues. 80% of women have hormone issues.
Can you, for really quick, people that don't know what sex hormones are, can you give specific
Yes.
examples?
Yeah. So stress hormones are, if you're watching the video demonstrating with my hands, stress hormones are like cortisol, adrenaline, endorphins, stuff like that. Sex hormones are progesterone, testosterone, estrogen. Estrogen's borderline a stress hormone though at the same time, so you kind of get a double whammy when you're under a lot of stress. And I think that's why so many women are estrogen dominant as well, is we do produce a little more estrogen when we are under stress, and then we don't produce progesterone, which is the progestation hormone. It's the hormone that women need in order to have regular cycles, in order to carry a baby. So we are kind of in a low progesterone epidemic right now. And I really think this is because so many women are in this heightened stress, fight or flight response all the time because of our habits and our lifestyle of under eating, under sleeping, doing a lot all the time. And that's
I want to
because
highlight
of our societal structure, how we idealize things.
I want to highlight one thing. Johanna and I have talked about potentially doing some sort of an episode on like labs and what like when your labs are normal, but everything's off and stuff like that. That's a whole nother story. But I would love for you to highlight really quick talking about the progesterone epidemic and how our first line of defense in most cases shouldn't be, okay, I have low progesterone, let's put you on progesterone without first looking at all of these things that we just mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That's a great question, and I think really important to talk about. So, the reason we don't want to just, okay, so you get your labs done or you have symptoms of low progesterone. The reason that you don't want to just supplement progesterone is because it's not addressing the why at all. At all. It is purely a band-aid. Now, are there times in life where that band-aid can be really awesome? Sure. You got pregnant unexpectedly and you want to make sure that you can carry through your first trimester. Supplementing progesterone might be a great solution in that situation. That is a very, 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 very small percentage of women. Okay. Right now we use progesterone, I feel like way, way in like a over usage.
Yeah.
The other thing with that progesterone too is if you use it orally, it has a way higher chance of turning into estrogen in the body. And that's primarily how it's used, unfortunately. So we need progesterone in order to have a balanced second half of your cycle. We need it to be able to ovulate, and we need it to be able to carry with pregnancy. If you're not able to produce your own progesterone, we have to ask why. Is it because you're under eating? Is it because you're under eating carbs? Is it because you have nutrient deficiencies? Is it because you have something going on with your immune system? Is it because you're stressed all the time? And we'll do a self-assessment here in a little bit so you guys can check in on that. Why is your progesterone low? Let's address that, see how your body responds. If you do all of those things and it still doesn't necessarily come up, then maybe a supplement could be helpful. But it should never necessarily be the first line of defense because it's not addressing anything and it can actually have consequences because progesterone can convert to cortisol in the body when you're under a lot of stress. So then it further causes more stress issues. So being very, very cautious about progesterone and progesterone supplementation can be very, very key.
That was a beautiful explanation. Will
Oh,
you
good.
touch on HTMA really quick, and then we'll go into
Yeah,
some specific examples of how stress can impact us?
sure, absolutely. So when we're under stress, like one example of this, so when we're under stress, our body burns minerals and vitamins very, very differently, even proteins, fats, and carbs too. An example of that is when we're under stress, we burn magnesium at 300 times faster than normal. And this is coming from a society that's already pretty magnesium deficient. So that means if you're not, one, addressing your stress, you're going to be burning through magnesium. Or two, if you're not replenishing magnesium, that's also going to affect how your body handles stress. And it might be really hard to break that stress pattern, which then causes you to burn even more magnesium and it causes a lot of issues. So we can look at stress on blood and then but we really like to look at stress on the HTMA, which is hair tissue mineral analysis test. There's actually a ratio, it's your sodium to potassium marker. And if that sodium to potassium level is really, really high, that typically means that you're in like a resistance or no, sorry, in an alarm stage of stress. So like I'm gonna just like throw some big ones out there. Like you just lost your job, you got a divorce, some crazy like death in the family, something like that. Like your stress response is gonna skyrocket. That's actually gonna displace how you use minerals. If your sodium to potassium ratio is very, very low, that is your exhaustion state of stress. So that's like your burnout stage of stress. You don't have reserves anymore to be able to handle stress. So a lot of clients will be in more of that burnout stage. If you're kind of in the middle, like finding like a nice balance with your sodium potassium ratio, that's resistant stage of stress. That means that you're doing pretty good. You're resisting stress. I would say of all of the HTMAs that we've ran over like hundreds at this point, I would say most women are in the exhaustion stage. They're not even in the alarm stage anymore. We can also look at your adrenal ratio, and this is your sodium to magnesium ratio. If it's really, really high, that means your adrenal glands are really, really like overworked, or not they're overworked, they're overproducing currently. So they're in active overdrive. And then if it's really, really low, it means that they are not functioning well. Once again, I would say the majority of our female clients are in that burnout, exhausted adrenal state. which is actually a sign that you don't need to start with magnesium. You should not start taking magnesium yet if you're in that stage. So it's really interesting because we can look at the HTMA almost kind of like a like an astrology chart, and we can kind of predict like, okay, these are Johanna's behaviors. I bet she's going to be a fast four, which is what we'll see on the HTMA. And fast four style people on the HTMA are like stress seekers. Um, they go all the time. They burn themselves out. They say yes to everything. They have their hands in so many different pots. They're pretty exhausted. They might have gut issues, hormone issues, stuff like that. And that was me. That's a lot of our clients. And so we can almost like predict the style of like nutrient metabolizer that they are based on what they're telling us symptom wise, and then we get their HTMA and we're like, yeah, that makes sense. You're a fast four or you're a slow one, and we can see what that looks like. And it's just kind of interesting because like you can actually see how your body's handling stress at a cellular level. And I think that's really important to know of like this just isn't in your head. Like this is literally affecting your body cells. And if things are affecting your body cells, it's affecting everything else in your body.
That's why I think these tests can be so powerful. So I've done two or one. I've done one. I'm gonna do another one here soon. I think
Yeah.
we basically explained what mine numbers were when we ran mine too.
Yeah.
But I think it was so validating
Yeah.
to be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not just in my head. Like
No.
there is stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So, which goes perfectly into this next section where I'm basically just going to give you guys a list. And I really want you to take inventory as I'm saying these of things that are happening in your life. So these are other signs in the female body that can be like a white flag of like, hey, I need some help. For if you're not
Yeah.
watching video, I'm waving my hand.
White or red?
Or red. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need help. Because some can be like early signs where I guess I would say like white, and then if you keep ignoring it, it's going to transition to a red sign of like alarm, alarm, alarm.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is like hormone imbalance and reproductive health. So like your menstrual cycle is just wonky. You
Thyroid.
want it and your thyroid. That's a good one. Speaking of my own. Yeah, your thyroid labs can be super off too. So just looking at your hormones and your cycles, are they normal? Are they abnormal? Can be a really good sign into are you running on chronic stress or are you in a good place? That's the
I
first one.
want to add really quick there
Add,
because I
please.
don't want people to like hear that and be like, "Oh, I need to go get my hormones tested." No, your hormones are such a consequence of what's going on in your body. We don't test hormones because I don't really care about the consequence. I care about what's causing it, right? So I like to look at symptoms, your cycle health, if you're like struggling to get pregnant or not, like what's going on there first. We look at that, then we look at your gut, your nutrients, and we look at the why behind why your hormones might be off. Address those after we do that for a while, then potentially consider testing your hormones. But most often it's test your hormones. Okay, so then I have low progesterone. Well, what did that tell you? It didn't tell you why, right? So I don't want you to like hear this and think, okay, I need to go get my hormones tested because I think that's like the first line of defense for so many women. And it's valid because you want to know, right? But what are you going to do with that information? You don't have the why. If your estrogen's high or estrogen's low or progesterone's high or progesterone's low, you need to know why they're high or low.
I think it's just a really good pitch for the power of learning how to listen to your
Yeah.
body and like being in a tune with your body and alignment and like tracking your cycle. I mean, we're not taught that as women. It should be like part of high school, but it's not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It should be like mandatory, but just knowing how to truly listen to your body can give you so much power and insight.
Which could be why so many women are so disconnected, is because they don't even know how to do that self-assessment tool of, yeah, my menstrual cycle is super wonky. I think I do need to address stress in my life. We don't have that tool because it's not ingrained in our society at all.
Yep. Yep. So our next one is body composition. One thing we see a lot often is like stress-related belly fat in particular is one place that we really see it in women. Food cravings and emotional eating is a really big one. And I was on a call with a client the other day, and one of the breakthroughs that she had was she's in control of her cravings versus before, like the food was in control
Yeah.
to where she literally couldn't say no to eating a sweet treat or something. And she's like, now, Amber, I can be the one that's like, you know what? I want to eat this, but she also has the ability to say no.
Yeah.
I think that's a big, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't
Don't
even
ask
know.
me.
I don't even know. Just watch
Pregnancy
food
brain's not
cravings
going
and
to help
emotional
you with
eating.
that one.
I don't even have pregnancy brain on this one. All right, next one is sleep disruption. And this can come in a couple ways. One, you just have a really hard time falling asleep. Two, you fall asleep, but you wake up throughout the night. Or
Especially between 2 to 3 a.m.
yes. Or three, you feel like you slept really good, but you're just never rested.
Yeah.
Like you're just constantly tired. You're having that midday crash. You're wanting to take a nap. You're just not getting quality sleep. Cognitive function. This is a big one. So I think of like specifically for me, so I do have thyroid stuff that I've been working for a while, and I can always tell when I'm kind of getting in that really stressed state of I get like brain fog. I just don't think I can speak really clearly. I say more. Maybe I'm there right now. So just not feeling like you're thinking all that clearly. You're maybe more forgetful. You need to write things down more, stuff like that. Struggling to see results in the gym. This speaks a lot to my clients. They'll come to me and they're like, Amber, I'm doing all of the right things. I'm eating well. I'm working out. I'm trying to focus on my sleep. They're doing all this stuff, but they're not seeing change. That can be, again, an indication that stress is a big factor that we need to look at. This also goes back to mine too, and probably Johanna's breast milk supply. Breast milk supply is a big indicator. If you're eating enough, you're sleeping, you're doing all the things, but your supply is not where you want it to be, a lot of times evaluating where you're at with your stress can make a really big difference. Low sex drive. This goes back to like the sex hormones too. Increased pelvic floor symptoms is a huge one. I cannot stress, pun intended, this one enough of the connection between stress and the pelvic floor. We hold so much tension. Yeah, the jaw too. She's pointing to her jaw for those of you that aren't watching the video. Your jaw and your pelvic floor are like best friends. So this is exactly what I was just going to say is when we start getting more tense and stressed and overwhelmed, what we typically see is we start tensing our body. You guys, if they can't see me, I'm clenching my fist, I'm clenching my jaw, I'm raising my shoulders up. I'm almost like shrinking in on myself. And typically when we start seeing those behavior patterns, you're also clenching like your glutes, you're sucking your tummy in, and you're putting a lot of stress and tension on that pelvic floor, which then equates to pelvic floor symptoms. So constipation, difficulty with intimacy, leaking, pelvic heaviness, things like that that you may not normally have, but you can start tracking during really high stress states. Are your symptoms spiking? And a lot of times they do. The last one on that list for us is mood swings. So just feel like you can't control your emotions. You have really high highs and really low lows. There's not a whole lot of like baseline. That can be a sign that you're in a lot of stress. So anything to add to that before I do like our little takeaway at the end? You're good? Okay. So the biggest thing that we want you guys to take away from this section in particular is stop working against your body and like start working in alignment with your body. Your body is speaking to you. So a lot of the times when we start having these symptoms that I listed, we're like, oh my gosh, my body's broken. It's failing me. It's working against me. And it's like, no, your body's trying to speak to you and you need to listen. It's telling you that something is off and we need to stop ignoring those signals because that's where it again goes from like that white, hey, I need a little bit of help flag to, oh crap, red alarms going off. So listen, work in alignment with your body, not against it. Anything to add?
No, I think that's beautiful.
Good?
Cool.
Okay. All right.
So we want to dive into how to start becoming more aware of your stress because I think that's the biggest thing of you're like, okay, great, I have all this info now, but how do I know what I need to do next, right? You can't make any change if you're not aware of it. And I think that's like, I almost get more excited when my clients become aware of things versus them actually getting results because I'm like, we can't get results if you don't have the awareness, right? So there's a couple tools. Ideally, if you're driving or something right now, come back to this. It's going to take like 5 minutes. It won't take long, but it's going to be a little like assessment that you can run yourself through. That's really, really powerful. I run this with all of my clients. Amber does something very similar with her clients. Um, so it's really powerful to bring some awareness to how does your body react to stress and then what's contributing to your stress bucket. So some physical stress reactions in your body. And what you could do is like write these out after I say them or just write a check mark or something along those lines. So I'll list these off, write them down. If you're driving, make a mental note, and then you can kind of go back from there. So fatigue. This is a really big one. Burnout, feeling burnt out, like you can't give anymore. Frequent headaches or migraines. No, it's not just your hormones. Digestive issues, bloating, constipation, loose stools, nausea. Mood swings, anxiety or irritability. Abdominal weight gain, Muscle tension, neck, jaw, shoulders. I'm gonna add pelvic floor. If you once it's hard to identify booty clenching until you know what it is, and then once you identify it, you're like, holy crap, I do that
I
all the
do it
time.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, and I'm gonna also add or waking up, not feeling rested even after a full night's rest. Racing thoughts, I'd add especially before bedtime. This is a really big one for a lot of our clients, or feeling overwhelmed. Blood sugar crashes, feeling hangry, or having energy dips. How often, how like so many women get like teased because of their hangriness. And I'm like, that's literally just a stress sign, and we all need to pay attention to it. Like, yeah, let's tease us about it. That's fine. But also, ladies, we need to
It's
do
a
something.
flag.
Yeah,
It's
we need to do something different. Yeah. And then lack of appetite is huge. Okay. So I'll say those. No, I'm not going to say those again. You guys can rewind. So rewind if you want to listen to those again. Mark them down. What ones are you currently experiencing? And then now we're going to jump into actually addressing like your stress bucket. Like what's starting to fill your stress bucket? So I'm going to run through this once again, write it down, write a check mark, whatever it might be. Okay, so commonly known stressors. These are things that typically people mostly are aware of. So I'm going to go financial, a financial strain, or maybe there's something going on there, relationship, trauma, or life event. And I would even add like pregnancy, birth. Yeah, even if your birth experience was really good, like that's still a big stress. So like remember it's not always less beneficial as we talked about. It's not always negative. Health issues, illness, disease, work, and then I'm also going to add busy schedule. Amber, is there anything else that you'd add to that?
think that's
As like
good.
commonly known. Okay. Lesser known stressors. So now this is the big one that I really think that most women need to pay attention to because this is filling your stress bucket whether you realize it or not. Under exercising and under moving and then over moving. Under exercising, I'm not gonna necessarily give specific examples because that's gonna depend on you and your body. Under sleeping, so sleeping probably less than 7 hours a night or oversleeping. That can also be a really big stress or having dysregulated sleep schedules. So like sometimes you go to bed at 8, sometimes you go to bed at midnight, sometimes you wake up at 6, sometimes you wake up at 11. That can be very stressful on the body. Eating habits. You aren't eating enough. You've been in a caloric deficit for a long time. You skip meals. You skip breakfast. That's a big one. You rely on caffeine to get through the day. You undereat in any proteins, fats, or carbs. That's kind of like eating habits. Or overeating, but not nutrient dense food. So like maybe you're getting 3,000 calories or 2,500 calories, but it's with a lot of like seed oils or things that are really taxing to the body. I don't really want to like demonize foods, so that's like a different conversation, but I think you guys get it. Poor hydration. Poor hydration. So not drinking enough or not getting enough minerals. Supplementing is a really, really big one. Taking too many supplements can be very, 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 very stressful on the body. Very stressful. We should do a supplement episode because supplements are so misunderstood. Trying to be superwoman and doing it all. And then hidden infections. This is one that a lot of women aren't aware of. So if you have, and it may not even be hidden, but you may not realize how much it's affecting you. Sinus infections, ear infections, yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, STDs, STIs. If you ever had mono and you have Epstein-Barr virus active in your body, mold, and then like lupus, like all of Lyme's disease is what I meant, not lupus. Lyme's disease. If you have anything like that going on, whether you're diagnosed with it or not, like that could also be contributing to some things. And that's where someone like me can come in and I can help you identify those. And we do want to take care of those because that could really, really, really be filling your stress bucket and you don't even realize it. Like yeast is a really big one for a lot of women, and bacteria is a really big one for a lot of women. And that could be taking 4 of your 5 gallons of stress resilience. So you have 1 gallon to spare for everything else in life. And you may not even realize it. It's really, really common. I'd say the majority of our fertility clients have some sort of viral infection as well as in there too, have some sort of like hidden infection that they're not aware of. Anything you want to add to that, Amber?
No, it's
No?
good.
Okay. Um, the next thing we want to touch on is now let's start to look at your coping mechanisms and how your body or how you handle stress. Do you try to power or trudge through all the time? Like, oh, I just have to get through this. I just have to get through this. It'll get better. It'll get better.
Have we all seen that reel where it's like they're typically referring to like pregnancy, but like if I just get through this day
Yeah.
and I get through this day,
Yeah.
then it'll get better. But then they get to that day and they're like, but if I just get through this many more days and this,
Mhm.
it's that whole pattern.
And when you look at that, like what a way to live.
Yeah.
When you're in a constant season of if I just get through this,
Mhm.
then it'll get better. But that is always what you say. It
Yeah.
never actually gets better. Scrolling or numbing out with tech, I think this is the biggest thing. Like if you go and look at a bus stop, oh my God, like I'll walk in our neighborhood and like see these kids waiting for their school bus to pick them up and all of their heads are down on their phone. It's just really sad. Um, Katrina just went to Italy and she said it was really interesting because all the tourists were on their tech all the time and all the locals weren't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Wow.
So scrolling and numbing out, I think our society, unfortunately, in America is really, really bad at this. Withdrawing from others is really big. Saying yes to everything, and that kind of goes along with like powering and trudging through. You're just like, yes, 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 I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I can take it on. I can do it. Fatigue. This was a big one for me. So I always felt exhausted. I always would say like, I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired. I then figured out that that's my body trying to slow me down. It's like, yeah, Johanna, you're exhausted, so go take a nap rather than taking on this new work project, you
Mhm.
know? So I think that's a really big one. Setting, and then some more like positive coping mechanisms, like setting boundaries. Do you block out your schedule? Do you start saying no? Do you recognize when you're under these stressful habits too? So being aware of how you handle stress can also be really helpful because then it can give you some insights into what do you need to work on or what do you need to do more of. And kind of go from there.
Cool. I'm going to go into some specific action steps or strategies that we can do specific to like nervous system regulation techniques. Some of these are ones that I use with my kiddos, I use with my clients. We're going to give you three that are pretty simple. So the first one is diaphragmatic breathing. Um, I won't walk you guys through a specific of this, but I will link in the show notes a specific video of me walking you through diaphragmatic breathing. It one is a great nervous system reset, but it's literally something that I think every not even just women, literally every person should know how to do diaphragmatic breathing. It's something I teach my kiddos. It's amazing. So diaphragmatic breathing or just some sort of breath work is the first one. Does do a really good job of down regulating your nervous system.
Mhm. And it gets you out of that fight or flight.
Yes, gets you out of fight or flight. Yep. Another one is pattern interrupts. So this can look like I'll use an example of work for me. I work from home. It is very easy for me to just work, 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 work. Like don't take breaks, don't do lunch. Like I was talking to a client the other day, like sometimes when we work at home, we're our own worst bosses.
Yeah.
And so having set times, I literally have, some people hate timers, but I literally use a timer. For me, this is helpful. If you guys can't see that, I have a timer in my hand. Setting a timer for like, okay, it's time to take a break. It's time to stand up. It's time to go from sitting to standing. It's time to do like a short little mobility thing. Something that just interrupts the pattern that you're in and gives your body a second to breathe can be really, really powerful. Same thing can be if you know you're in a really stressed state in the moment, being able to recognize, okay, I need to stop for a second. I need to take a break right now to, go outside or take a deep breath or whatever you need to do just to like get that reset and like physically change the state your body's in.
Yeah.
My favorite one, this is the one that I do with my kiddos all the time. It's called the 5 4 3 2 1 method. I initially had heard it from Mel Robbins and it's super powerful and it's something you can do with really little kiddos too. So you basically count backwards 5 4 3 2 1. And then I always have my kids just take a really big deep breath. And we do that as many times as we need. What it literally does on like a neurological level is it interrupts that pattern or that spiral that you have going on where you're like spiraling through that stress state. It hits like a reset to where you have a couple seconds to just re-regulate your nervous system and you can do it a couple of times. The more you do it, I think the more resilient your body gets and responds to it better. In the beginning, it may take you a couple of rounds to get to that, but it helps a lot and it's really, really good for like acute stress. So like when my kids are having an absolute temper tantrum, I'll be like, hey, let's do our 5 4 3 2 1. Look them right in the eyes, get on their level, try it, and it works really, really well. Or like for myself, if my kids are really pushing my buttons and I can feel myself getting elevated, I will use this strategy myself so that I don't respond in a way that I don't want to. I can calm myself down before I then respond to them. So those are just a couple. Um, Anything to add to that?
No.
Cool. Okay. So now we're going to go into a couple other kind of I think more silly but fun ones that you can also do. And this is like movements that you can do that can also help with stress. So, one of our favorite ones in our house personally is dancing. Dancing, singing, kitchen dance parties can be so, so, so good for you. I was watching a reel the other day, and one gal in there, her and her family, every single morning without fail, start the day with a dance party in the kitchen.
That's
And
cute.
I loved that. Their kids expect it. It's just such a good way because mornings can be so chaotic and so hectic. And so that's something in their family. Like every morning, we're gonna have a mini dance party. So that's one. Shaking. So if you feel yourself in a really high acute stress state, you can literally like shake it out. Shake your
Mhm.
I tell clients like shake your glutes out if you're having a lot of tension. Let
Yeah.
your belly go. Shake your hand. Shake. This is a good one too. You guys are able to see this if you're not watching a video. It's called horse lips. Like shake your lips out. It's
That's
just
crazy. We couldn't hear that. The mic, the
you
mic
can
like
hear it.
canceled that noise. No, we couldn't hear it.
Let's
It
try it
basically
again.
it's the I don't know if we can do it to give you
Oh, it's
guys an
weird. Okay,
example.
basically, you know, like what a horse does when they're like, was that them neighing? I don't know. Where their lips like literally shake,
Yeah.
blow air out, and you like let your lips shake. It's actually really good for labor and delivery for
Yeah.
relaxing during
Yeah.
contractions. But I will have clients do that just during the day.
Yeah.
Like, shake your lips out. Breathing, we already mentioned this. Yoga,
Mhm.
meditation, getting outside, sunshine, tapping. So again, you guys can't see me either, but I'm like tapping along my face, tapping along my shoulders, just touching your body. Again, that's a nervous system reset. Going for a walk, doing a workout. Those are all some really, really easy things that you can just do.
You know what all of these are?
What?
They get you in your body and out of
Yeah.
your mind.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so
and I
true.
think that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm a very mental, heady person,
Hmm.
and it can be really easy to stay in your head, especially if you're spiraling. And literally, all of these get you out of your head,
So true.
except meditation, I guess. But the meditation was interesting if you're a heady person, kind of like me, and you get stuck there.
Hmm.
Body scan meditations can be really helpful.
Yep.
The Daily Calm has one. I think it's called Be Present, and it literally does a body scan, and it's great.
Yeah, it totally is. It just gets you out of that stuck inside my brain and like
Yeah.
gets you for a little bit, which is really
Yeah.
powerful. I think the good thing to keep in mind here is this doesn't have to be long. It
Yeah.
can be literally 2 to 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be something crazy.
Yeah.
Find ones that work for you. We put like create your movement menu.
Yeah.
What are things, and like you could literally write these out and like have them on your fridge. Really good way to like teach your kiddos some emotional
Yeah.
regulation and stuff too. Have them on there of like, okay, when I feel this way, here's some options I can choose from. Can be really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you want to go into we kind of touched on some of this already. We're going to go a little bit into like boundary setting, and just some tactical examples. So we've already touched on saying no. I just want everyone listening to know it's okay to say no. There's power
Mhm.
in saying no. There's power in having boundaries. And this can be saying no to yourself, like
Yeah.
choosing not to have a new project you're launching and a podcast and all these series like all at once, like saying no to yourself. It could be saying no to friends. It could be saying no to family. It could be saying no to your kids, like whatever it looks like, saying no to your employer. Boundaries are okay. Technology boundaries, I think this is really big. The first thing that I always do whenever I get like my phone or my watch, turn notifications off. You don't
Yeah.
Instagram, your Facebook, everything coming through. The only thing that comes through my watch is messages, specifically for like childcare. If my mom ever needed anything when she's watching the kiddos or something like that, turn notifications off. Turn it off at nighttime. Ideally, like 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed. Have all the blue light stuff put away. Use the do not disturb setting on your phone. Stuff like that can be really, really powerful. And then we kind of touched on this already too, but stuff that drains you versus gives you energy and do like a life audit.
Yeah.
Like sit down and look at your day, look at your life. Is this serving you? Is this not serving you? What can you change to increase things that are giving you energy versus taking away? And again, not all of those are things that we can control, but just doing a general life audit of what can I adjust?
I want to touch on social for a second, social media,
Hmm.
because I feel like that's just such a big one that so many people turn to no matter the age. And it's because it feels really good when you start it because you get a dopamine release, so it does feel really good. But then as you're on it longer, it's actually starting to mess with your like
Yeah.
chemistry and your what's going on with your brain. A big thing that I recommend for a lot of clients is if they're in a season of stress or a season of trying to recognize their stress, actually deleting the apps. And
Hmm.
it's really interesting how many people are resistant to doing that. And I think if you're resistant to doing that, it gives you some insight into what's going on, that it might be a really strong coping mechanism for you. It's really interesting. I'll delete all social media off my personal phone. I have a work phone that I'll keep it on. And if I get it back on my personal phone, you betcha I'm checking it all the time. And it's a really tricky because it feels really good, but then I'm like noticing I'm more tired and I'm more stressed out and I don't get as much done because I'm consuming rather than creating and stuff like that. So kind of an interesting thing. And I think technology, unfortunately, is just so prevalent. Like we use TV to like numb out. We use social media. We use all these things to numb out. And so just being aware of that and just knowing you have the power to change that habit for you. You are not victim to this. And then once you know this information, it is now your choice to continue doing these habits, whether you want them or not.
Yep. Should we teach them habit stacking?
Sure.
Okay. So habit stacking and sustainability. So this is how you can take all of the stuff that we're teaching you and actually implement it and make it stick. So the way habit stacking works is you're going to first identify existing strong habits. So I'm going to give like very simple examples. So whatever your morning routine is, and everyone's is going to look a little bit different. Let's say it's wake up, brush your teeth, go to the bathroom, do your makeup. I'm just making this up. Or shower. Let's add in shower because this will be helpful. Add in your shower. While you're in the shower, which is a habit you already do, add in some breath work. So do 2 minutes of breath work while you're showering. Because a lot of people will come to us and be like, okay, I don't have time for this stuff. And I'm like, that's okay, I get it. But where can we stack this new habit onto something you're already doing? One of my good friends, when she stays at our house, she always brushes her teeth and does a wall sit. And the first time she did it, I was like, what are you doing? And she's,
That's hilarious.
I have to brush my teeth, I have to dry my hair or whatever. So she's found ways to put in pockets of movement in things she's already doing. And it's the same idea. So, like, you have a coffee break or a tea break during the day, make it a brief stretching session. You have a commute to work. I do this with my kids. We do a gratitude practice. I'll ask Emmy, Bo obviously can't do it yet. What are 2 things you're grateful for while we're driving to drop them off? So easy.
Bo will be like, nay nays.
For real.
I'm
Real.
grateful for nay
Your
nays.
bike. He's obsessed with his bike and horses. Yeah. And then one Johanna brought up was like journaling. I'm huge on journaling, so is she into like doing a brain dump. This is especially
I
important
would
if
actually say
it's
I'm not huge into journaling.
oh, that's right. We talked about that, but
Yeah,
you'll do
I
it
am
as like a
not a
brain dump,
journaler. Like, I'm
right?
not a gratitude journaler. I'm not like a daily journaler. That is not me. And I always thought there was something wrong with me. And instead, I've just decided to be like, I'm
No,
not, and that's okay.
people aren't.
But I'm a brain dumper. So if
I was
I'm
the same.
spiraling and I'm having similar thoughts and I just can't get rid of them, like I'm really stewing on something, I'll do a brain dump. And I actually end up self-coaching, which is really kind of cool in that brain dump. And I feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah,
One little thing that like I've started habit stacking is I'm trying to get morning light in my eyes. What's
same.
something I do every single morning? I let my dog out of her crate. I let her go potty. So I just go out with her for 30
Yeah.
seconds and I get some light in my eyes. I take some deep breaths before I start my day. Literally 30 seconds and I'm already doing it.
I started
So,
to drink my coffee on my porch
yeah.
specifically for that reason. Or
Yeah.
like if Bo wakes up super early, which that's been his thing lately. We go look at the tulips that are outside because
Oh
he loves that they
no.
open and close with the sun
Oh.
and stuff. So that's what we do now every morning when he wakes up. We'll go check the tulips. So then
Yeah.
I'm getting sun, he's getting to look at the cool tulips.
And then you're also experiencing your environment, which is going to help
Exactly.
reduce stress.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Sweet.
Okay. I think we're to our last section. Do you want
Yeah.
to explain the stress loop?
Yeah, so when it comes to stress, the reason that it's so important, and hopefully this is making a lot of sense now, the reason it's so important to become aware of it is because with our body, there's a lot of cycles. So if you have a lot of excess stress, that's going to affect digestive issues. And then if you have digestive issues, that's going to increase stress. And then stress will increase digestive issues, and it gets really negative. It can happen with hormones. So excess stress causes hormone issues causes stress issues. But you can also switch it into a positive with pretty simple little habits. So we like to kind of explain like the stress cycle as stress can lead to your mindset, which can lead to how you handle nutrition, which how you handle hydration, and then affects digestion, which affects movement, which affects sleep, which then affects stress, and it's all connected. So doing small little things like drinking some electrolytes before your coffee in the morning, not skipping meals, going to bed a little bit earlier, turning off notifications on your phone, that's impacting all these little areas of this loop, which is then going to help switch you into it's like throwing wrenches in the cycle, but they're little baby wrenches. You know, we don't have to completely switch the cycle, just like throw a couple baby wrenches in that cycle and you'll start going in a positive direction. Then it's much easier to have momentum to continue to make positive changes.
Let's go into two stress resiliency to watch for to know that things are like getting better. So a couple examples are quicker return to baseline. So for me, I'll give a motherhood example. I know that I'm getting better at handling like my acute stress in motherhood of when I can more quickly catch myself before I start going into that like, okay, I'm really pissed off state.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, I'm gonna do my 5 4 3 2 1. I'm gonna take a deep breath. And I can then calmly talk to the kiddos versus heading into like a really negative space. So that's one example. More thoughtful, responsive with versus reactive. Same
Mhm.
idea. Improve sleep and energy, better appetite regulation. That's just a short list. There's obviously more, but those are some good ones that you guys can start paying attention to.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we do our one
Great.
last recap and then I think we're good? So
Yeah.
the goal is not to eliminate all stress. Like we would die if we eliminated all stress in our life. But the goal is to build capacity to respond effectively and recover better and to remain grounded in the process. So you cannot get rid of all of your stress, but start having some tools to where you can become more resilient. You can recognize when you're in a spiral and get yourself out of it quicker. Okay.
Awesome. Cool.
Sweet. Thanks for joining us for this episode, guys,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next week.
Yes. You'll see you next week. Hope this helps, and we're all going to get a little bit more in tune with ourselves in the meantime.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us on the Wild and Fierce podcast. If you loved this conversation, we'd be so grateful if you left a review and shared it with a friend who needs to hear this.
And if you really loved it, take a screenshot, share it on your stories, and tag us. We'd love to see it. Until next time, stay wild, stay fierce, and keep owning your journey.